Today we're going to talk about ADA.
As the sun goes
Good evening, my fellow security officers. Hope you're having a good night. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you watching this channel. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, helps get it out there and get more guards the information that helps them do their jobs, the stuff that they don't teach you during qualification. The first thing that, the client that you work for has asked you to enforce a policy on something that you know is can be pretty serious, especially if you don't do it right. And what I'm talking about is ADA, and that's Americans with Disabilities Act. More specifically, service animals. Many stores, many places have policies against animals. You can't bring animals into a lot of places, and so you may be asked by management to have the animal removed from the building. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, what if it's a service dog? And you're right, it's a sticky situation, and I want to make sure that you're aware that there are a couple things you can do as a security guard, but there's a lot of things you cannot do. And if you do, you will end up opening yourself to some tremendous liability. So, U.S. Department of Justice issued a frequently asked questions that makes the situation a little bit easier. There are some official documents, but I got this here. I just printed this out so that I could find it. It says frequently asked questions about service animals in the ADA. Being that I work in a hospital, we do come across this quite a bit. In fact, the reason that I thought about this was because I had a situation earlier where the charge nurse asked me to address a dog in the emergency room. And so knowing what I already knew, I had to go talk to this person and just approach it very carefully, and deal with that. Definition of a service animal. Under the ADA, a service animal is defined as a dog that has been individually trained to do work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. The tasks performed by the dog must be directly related to the person's disability. What does do work or perform tasks actually mean? The dog must be trained to take specific action when needed to assist the person with a disability. So, it doesn't apply to just any animal, and it has to be a specific task that helps with that disability. One of the biggest ones you're going to find is that, this is an emotional support dog, and they'll try to show you some kind of credentials. Well, right now I'll tell you that they do not issue credentials for service dogs, so those credentials mean nothing. However, there is a distinction with the emotional service, and there are two. And I'll get to that in just a moment, but I want to make it very clear there are only two questions that are very specific that you're allowed to ask a person that has a service dog. First question is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? And that's a simple yes or no question. The second question is, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? So those are the only two specific questions that we're allowed to ask regarding service animals. Staff are not allowed to request any documentation for the dog, require the dog demonstrate its task, or inquire about the nature of the person's disability. That violates their privacy. So stay away from that. You don't need to know what their disability is, and you can't have them demonstrate what the dog's dog does. You just can't do it. Stay away from that. Stick to the two questions. First question, I'm going to repeat it. Is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? Second question, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? And I would write those down. I would memorize those two questions, because as a guard, you will ultimately, inevitably be put into a situation where you're going to have to find out. And There are very, very, very few circumstances where the dog would not be allowed inside of a building because it is a service animal. And this question and answer goes into a little detail. So one thing, one of the questions here, can a person bring a service animal with them as they go through a salad bar or other self-service food lines? And the answer is yes. Service animals must be allowed to accompany their handlers to and through self-service food lines. In fact, when a dog is brought into any place, the dog must be under the control of its owner at all times. They cannot leave the dog alone at any place. It has to be under the control of the owner at all times. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry I had to switch scenes there. My break ran out of time and I had to stop what I was doing. But let's resume here. So, as a guard, you were maybe posted at a business and somebody tries to bring a dog in. And you ask the questions that you're allowed to ask, and they present you a certificate or a license. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that license is BS. It's not. So the question here in the pamphlet states, does the ADA require that service animals be certified as service animals? And the answer is no. Covered entities may not require documentation such as proof that the animal has been certified, trained, or licensed as a service animal as a condition for entry. And so you can't even ask for certification or license or any sort of proof. And then it goes on to state that there are individuals and organizations that sell service animal certification or registration documents online. These documents do not convey any rights under the ADA, and the Department of Justice does not recognize them as proof that the dog is a service animal. Now, another one to really pay attention to is the type of animal. And can we discriminate against an animal based off its breed? And the answer absolutely is no. For example, pit bulls. You can't discriminate based off of the breed of the dog. No service animal may be excluded based on assumptions or stereotypes about the animal's breed or how the animal might behave. However, if a particular service animal behaves in a way that poses a direct threat to the health or safety of others, has a history of such behavior, or is not under the control of the handler, the animal may be excluded. If an animal is excluded for such reasons, staff must still offer their goods or services to the person without the animal present. Now, if you are working security in a city or town or a municipality that has a ban on certain breeds, and again, a lot of times there's actual whole cities that will ban pit bulls, so it's illegal in that city or town to own a pit bull. Does the ban apply to service animals? And the answer is another no. Municipalities that prohibit specific breeds of dogs must make an exception for the service animal of a prohibited breed, unless the dog poses a direct threat. It just basically reiterates what was said in the last paragraph that we read. So here's one that applies directly to security. What can security, the word is staff, what can my staff do? I'm going to place it with security. What can security do when a service animal is being disruptive? And the answer is, if a service animal is out of control and the handler does not take effective action to control it, the staff may request that the animal be removed from the premises. What happens if a person thinks a covered entity's staff has discriminated against him or her? And this is where it gets important, because this is more of a question for the person with a disability. And it says, individuals who believe that they have been illegally denied access or services because they use service animals may file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice. Individuals also have the right to file a private lawsuit in federal court charging the entity with discrimination under ADA. So, if you're a security guard, it's very important that you understand these rules. I provided the link to this question and answers pamphlet on the ADA website in the description. So definitely go click on that link, download this, print it out, read it, put it away, read it again later. Keep it fresh in your mind, because you will come across these, especially if you work in retail, doing security, and you can be opened up to potentially criminal accusations as well as civil. And trust me, you don't want to mess around, especially when it pertains to ADA, if you were responsible for discrimination. So just want to avoid that. So one thing that I promised to return to earlier in the video was the situation where you may have somebody bring a dog to you and they are claiming that it is an emotional support dog. And the question is an emotional support dog a legitimate ADA service dog? And this answer has a mixed answer. And the answer is it depends. The ADA makes a distinction between psychiatric service animals and emotional support animals. If the dog has been trained to sense that an anxiety attack is about to happen and take a specific action to help avoid the attack or lessen its impact, that would qualify as a service animal. However, if the dog's mere presence provides comfort, that would not be considered a service animal under the ADA. And you've got to be very careful about how you ascertain that. And I'm going to revisit those 2 questions that you're allowed to answer. They're very specific. And these are the only 2 questions you're allowed to answer here. First question again is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? And that's a yes or no answer. If the answer is yes, the second question you're allowed to ask that's a specific question is, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? This is going to allow you to get more specific. And if the person ends up lying to you about it and they give you an answer that would qualify them for ADA, you've absolved yourself of any responsibility, and if you took any further action, you could be accused of discrimination. However, it's likely that if they are faking it, then any complaints wouldn't be valid because they're going to have to provide their evidence. And so but you don't want to take that chance. You don't want to take the risk of it being a valid ADA animal and then having charges filed against you or being taken to court and filed in a federal court civilly for this issue. So just memorize these 2 questions. They are on page 2 of the link of the printout that I put in the description. Download and print that. Definitely keep that with you for further reference. And write down these questions and keep them on you, just so that you can reference them if you need to at a later time. And a message to the private patrol operators out there, owners of security companies: make sure you train your guards on this topic, because they will come across this, and if they do end up discriminating against somebody for ADA reasons, then that comes back on you as well and opens you up to liability, and you just don't want to be there. So make sure you're training your guards on this topic. You can download the information from the ADA.gov website, and make sure that your guards are fully aware of how to handle ADA situations, because especially if you're putting them in a retail location, they're going to inevitably face this, and their actions affect your company. So just spread the information around to them. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for now, guys. I'm heading home, going to get some rest. Have a good night and stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and like, comment, and share. Thank you much.